Hey folks. So, I figured it all out last night. It's kind of that moment before you're about to pass out and you're staring at the ceiling when you have that like genius moment of like, oh, I should do this. Why didn't I think of that a long time ago? So despite a ton of wasted time yesterday, I went ahead and made a couple little changes this morning, but I wanted to get the rest of it caught on stream so you guys could witness the greatness that is smart, competent design, and also kind of going back to old school basics in some ways. I often find that when I'm overthinking a problem or running into stuff like issues like what I had yesterday, that sometimes the easiest thing to do is go back to the basics in terms of how I kind of ask myself, how would this have been done in like the Doom era of games, right? And I know C# didn't exist then, and a lot of these data structures and techniques didn't really exist then, but it's always good to go that far back. You essentially say, okay, given an age of, linked lists being a weird thing and pointers being a powerful yet kind of a tool that you don't want to use all over the place, how would you take care of this problem? And essentially what I came down to was the fact that the player inventory should not be split into an array of things inside of a backpack and then a bunch of like random extra variables. The variables are all the same type, they can all get lumped together, so why not put them in one giant array? Because that's kind of the old school way of dealing with this issue, is you just dump everything in a giant array and you handle it like that. So I did a couple tweaks, the biggest of which is the fact that you'll note when I look at a player character's inventory, his inventory slots is one giant array. Now, I'm not terribly happy about this in some ways, because what this means is you'll note that the things in the backpack, which are slots 0 through 7, are indistinguishable from things that are in your hand just by looking at it in the inspector. So I might go through at some point and make a custom drawer just for the inventory so I can more easily see what's going on when I'm looking at the editor. If something gets kind of wonky, I can understand it better. But for now, right, this is my solution. The inventory is size 10 because you've got 8 slots for backpack. 0 through 7 are all backpack. 8 is left hand, right, or 9 is right hand. And the way that I take all of these and keep them under control is that let's see here, I'll show you guys. So I have a constant inside, actually that should be uppercase, because constants are uppercased. So we've got the backpack. We start the enumeration at the backpack size, -1. So we know that 0 through 7 are essentially all going to be marked as backpack. When we do the integer conversion, every single time we're going to see the same thing. So that's part 1. The other part here is that you'll note that after backpack we have the left hand, right hand, and then I use a maximum to essentially say that this is the total number of things a person can ever carry at once. So if you manage to equip one thing in every single slot, you're going to be up to the maximum number. And so that's actually a helpful thing, because now that max is part of the enumeration, what we can do in the player character is we say, okay, we're going to have an inventory array and it's going to be of size maximum. That's it. All done. No crazy calculations, nothing weird or out of place. That's it. We just handle it like that. And that kind of makes things a little easier, because once we get to creating everything in one move, we can simplify a bunch of stuff. So before I had this for loop only existed for the things in your backpack, and it simply said create an item UI for each thing in your backpack. If it's null, skip it. Now it says, okay, if we're less than the backpack value, or sorry, if we're less than or equal to the backpack value, we're going to use that. Otherwise, the logic is going to skip over and start using the equip slot as a string. And we're going to start appending strings to the end. pretty elegant, honestly. And then you'll notice there's another for each here that wasn't here yesterday. I'll go over that in a moment. So, okay, we've got our slots. We're making all the items. That's great. There are a couple bugs in the system we still have to squash before we call this complete, but we've got the item creation working at least. And from yesterday, you guys will remember we fought with Unity's UI system in order to get the dragging and dropping to be complete and work as it's expected to, which you can see it doing so. Now, one bug we have to squish is the fact that you can do that. Don't mind inventory. We'll just put everything in one slot. It's fine. Everything. Now, granted, you can kind of uncompress it after, which is hilarious. But I'd rather not that not be a feature. Just cause. So we've got to fix that. And we also have to make it actually change the inventory slot of the object. So, for example, you'll note right now that nothing changes. If I look at this guy's inventory and I take objects out of the end slots, they're still there. And that's because the UI is not pushing its changes back to the player. Not the end of the world, but something we have to keep in mind. So we've got a little bit of work left to do before we call this feature complete, but we're pretty freaking close. We're getting there. So I'm just going to dive in. And I note I have windows that could be closed. All right. So, oh, and the other piece of code that I put in. So, inventory slots need a way to tell the player character, hey, something's changed. So what we did was, I dove in and said, okay, we have a set inventory function, and we are going to actively just set objects when the time is right. So is that right? We'll leave that for now. So essentially onDrop shall start calling a function that says, hey, by the way, you dropped an item into this slot. I'm going to update it in the player character. And so what the player character does is it says, I'm going to grab the UI singleton, grab all the slot UI objects, and I'm just going to hand them this function, this arbitrary generic function that allows you to set inventory slots inside my inventory. So the window essentially has controls that go back to our data model that allow it to modify the data model and make sure that its view and our model match at all times. Because when I can, I try and keep this in something of a model view controller form. Obviously, Unity doesn't like it entirely when I try to do that, but this is a case where it works and it's a good data structure to follow. So let's see here. Let's start in on. Let's actually get objects. No, let's not get objects to change slots. Let's first stop objects from stacking on top of each other. So if I've got a fly flying around my head still, I can't win. Cannot win. Okay, so we have the item UI that's attempting to be dropped on top of us. So the first thing to do, so we can do a rejection. This first line essentially rejects you if the slot type doesn't match and it's not a backpack slot, because everything fits in backpack slots. Like there's nothing else to go on about it. It's just a backpack slot. Nobody cares. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to hop in here and say, okay, we know that this is probably a valid drop. What we need to do is check, do we have any children, to ensure that nothing else is attempted to sit on this inventory item slot. Or the other thing we could do is we could write a getter inside of here. Although, if there's already an item in this slot, and the item knows its previous slot, I'm actually tempted to just write the getter and hand the getter around as well. So this would actually not be an action, this would be a function. And we know we would pass it the inventory item and probably the slot. And actually no, we would just ask it for the slot and it would return an inventory item to us. I think that's the way I want to handle this. I'm not certain, but I think. So what we would then say is, okay, is there an item in this slot? If so, switch the two. And then we can just continue on our merry way from there. So, previous item. Oh, also I just realized we can't just, let's see here. Int slot index is going to be equal to, so if the slot type is a backpack slot, then we need to calculate it based on our name. Otherwise, we should be able to simply, what should we simply be able to do? We should be able to just intify. So this is going to be in part of the else statement, our equip slot. This is the part that's going to be a little more interesting. Specifically the getting the name of the object. Let's see here. I'm actually just going to write a helper for myself. This is actually not public, this is Unity. And then this is not public either. I'm actually going to make this a helper function. Get slot index from name. And I don't need really to pass anything else in here. What we are going to do is we're going to grab a string array. And we're going to just grab our name and split it apart based on the spaces. Now, I just need to double check that I'm doing this correctly, because if I do this wrong, terrible things will probably happen. Okay, it's backpack space slot space. So, I'm actually going to cheat. We're going to, it's not actually cheating, I'm just going to be smarter and do this the correct way. Name dot index of, now this is going to give me the, yeah, const string. Of course, I can't actually type const apparently. We'll call this the name prefix. So we're going to look for the index of the name prefix. Actually, that should always start at the same spot. So I don't even have to look for it. If I do an index of, I'm just wasting time. I'm actually just going to substring, starting at the name prefix length, and I'm just going to go to the end. So this should be our number. From there, we are going to return int.parse the number. And I'm just going to not use stupid generic variable names because those will drive me nuts. So we're just going to use get, there we go, get slot index from name. This has some invalid arguments, such as slot index should be what we're using. There we go. Now the player characters obviously need the getter. So here is our get inventory slot, which returns an inventory item given that you pass it a slot number. And this is simply going to return whatever is at that address. Hopefully we won't do anything too stupid and say have some argument errors or anything else like that going on. Oh, and we need to assign the variable, otherwise it'll be really unhappy when it tries to use a null reference. So let's fix that in our player character as well. Yes, Wilgand, this will be uploaded to my YouTube channel just like all the rest. I went through, I think I've got my first 7 videos up. I don't have yesterday's uploaded yet. I will start that once I'm done with today's stream. I'll push yesterday and today. So we've got about, it'll probably look like yesterday's 3 hours and today's, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours, however long I stream. So both of those days will get pushed all at once. And you guys will get to view this at your leisure. But thank you for asking. I definitely, sometimes I just need reminders. I finish the stream and go, woo, work done, and just like wander off away from my computer when there's actually a teensy bit more that needs to get done, especially since I'm using Twitch's export functionality now instead of self-recording and then pushing my recording up. Since I'm trying to avoid fighting with YouTube over like music rights and things, I'm just going music free this time. It just seems to be the easier way to go for now until I get enough viewers and enough followers that I can convince somebody like Monster Cat that it would be worth it to give me or let me use their music in my stream. One of those things. Okay, so we have our getter and setter. We're good. What else? What else? What else? What else? I always feel like I'm forgetting something. Right, actually the functionality that we came here to implement. So we get the previous item. If the previous item is null, actually we'll just do an is not null. Let's see here. So if the previous item is not null, we need to go into our item UI, which you'll note it has a previous parent. So we'll need a public function to exist here. And as with all code, every time we create a new section of different code, we put a marker here just so I can find things. Int. Let's see here. Get previous inventory slot index. I know it's a long function, but I like them long. That's right, I said it on stream. You guys heard it here first. I don't... Sometimes you just have to ignore the crazy things that come out of my mouth when I start talking. Alright, so we are going to... First off, we're going to say... If our previous parent is null, we're doing something terribly wrong. So we're going to return a -1. -1 is great for error cases because obviously when you have an array of objects, your array of objects starts at 0 and goes until whatever its maximum is. So having a -1 index lets you know that something terrible happened and that we should probably start investigating why things are so broken. So that's one part. The other part here, we have our previous parent. We know our previous parent had some component on it that happened to be called an inventory slot UI. And I should be able to get the slot index from here. I don't think I need the from name, do I? More functions. More functions. Public int get slot index. You'll note I go a little overkill on functionality sometimes, but honestly, it's one of those things where it lets you keep a lot of little functions floating around, and the little functions, because they tend to have fairly simple syntax, or because they tend to be fairly well encapsulated, it makes it easy to maintain those little bits of code here and there. So we get the slot index, and we're going to return that. And I'm even going to go so far. Is that current? Get previous. I kind of like, I like the word previous in here. I'm going to shorten that to prev just because that is a crazy long name. But that's fine. And I'm just going to leave myself a little note here. Only useful between on begin drag and on end drag. I don't think I null it out at the end, so it might be useful after, but I'm honestly not in much of a mood to do that kind of cleanup. This should be good enough. The note should let me know. Actually, warning is probably going to be a better tag, just so that I can, when I use it, kind of be like, why is this doing something weird? Oh, okay, it's only useful between here and here. Time to stop using it, or time to write a new function. Okay, so we know our current slot index and we know the previous one. If the previous one is not null, we can jump in and say previous item get, whoops, we have to get the component off of it first. No, we don't. Get, is that, I made it public, didn't I? Yeah, there's a public here. Oh, but that's in the UI. That's not in the item. Oh. Okay, so we've got item UI coming in. Oh, I know what we're doing wrong here. I may not need this get. I am going to leave it there for now, but I might remove it later if I can figure this out. So instead, inventory item UI. First things first. Is there a get first child, or do I just get child 0? I think I just get child 0. So, okay, if transform.get child count is 0, so if, oh, whoops, if it's greater than 0, and greater than 0 is frightening because that means there's a chance there might be more here, but for now, oop, it's, oh, okay, that's deprecated. Use child count. Dot child count. Nice. Unity, getting all modern and things. Okay, Jalapenos Bud is asking, what exactly is it that return something does? I've been programming for a year now, rarely use return because I'm confused about what it does. Return is a statement that does a few things. One is that you are able to break the linear order of code with it by essentially cutting off everything after the return statement. So whatever your current scope is, you're able to break out of that function scope and pass information along with it back to the caller. For example, say I want some variable to be 5, and I want to increment it with a function and have some other logic that goes on in case the number is negative. So I can say, okay, I'm going to write some function that returns an integer. It'll be called some function, and it'll take our variable argument. It's hard to do this because Visual Studio keeps wanting to fight with my white space here. But okay, so we've got this, and we've got some function that's going to say if the variable is, or if v, sorry, is less than 0, we'll simply return v. Otherwise, v++, return v. Yeah. So what this does for us is it essentially allows us to break through parts of this function scope without executing code. So when you say, I call some function, what's happening inside your code is it actually changes the scope of the function to the new function that you just called. So from main, which is a function, so from my main scope, I'm going to go inside, when I call some function and var, what's going to happen is we're going to pass 5 into this function. 5 is less than 0, false. So we're going to increment 1 to 5 and then return that as 6. Now the variable we passed in doesn't actually get changed because it's making a copy. So if we want that information to make it back into our same variable, we can do this. We can say the variable is equal to the output of this function. It essentially allows us to encapsulate a piece of logic that is simple, and we can put information in. We can say, okay, here's all the information that's coming in. You make a decision about what comes out. And so in this case, if we passed it, we don't have to pass it a variable, right? We can pass it -5. We can pass it 4. We can pass it 1,000,000. Anything that's an integer is valid as an input. And so if we pass a negative number and we want that to get stored in our variable, okay, here's -4. If it's less than 0, return v will simply return that information without changing it. It actually breaks outside of this function scope and hops out and says, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm complete. There's nothing more to be done inside this function. And it takes this information and passes it back out. So if we wanted to say, if it's less than 0, return 0, that is perfectly valid. It's one of those things that once you start to figure out how to encapsulate your logic into little bits and pieces will be an incredibly useful tool. It's really powerful to start breaking things off into functions. And I'm not even going to start in on the object-oriented side of how a function is. That was purely a functional side. I don't really have time, unfortunately, to dive into the full details of how and when to use a function in object-oriented languages, but for now, functionally, that's what it does. There are also a lot of really cool things you can do with object-oriented design, which is why you see private behind some of these and public behind others. But for now, you'll have to take it on my word that this shit's awesome. Return is a really, really powerful thing. You'll see me use it a lot. In this case, we are returning, so when I ask for a slot index, we say, okay, if you're a backpack slot, we have to go into the name, the string name, get that index and pass it back. Otherwise, take the slot type, turn it into an integer and hand it back. And the nice thing is if we want to use this code in more than one place, I don't have to keep copying and pasting this statement. I just use this. It's also a neat alias. It's one of those things that as you see, as you code more and more, you'll get really used to breaking your code into what I kind of consider bite-sized chunks, so that you end up with something that you can more easily handle all at once. So if you find a bug in a part of a function, you don't actually have to go back and rewrite every part of that code where you find it. You just fix the function and it's fixed everywhere. So if the child count is greater than 0, back to my code. Let's see here. If you have a child, we need to get that child. This will be our item UI. It's no problem. I don't mind being sidetracked from time to time, especially if it's something that you'll see me using a lot. It kind of makes it difficult to keep following along if I keep using weird keywords that don't make sense. Especially, I'm sure people will have a lot of questions the moment I dive into a coroutine and start using yield and using nonlinear code. That's when I'm sure a lot of your brains will break, and that's fine because we'll have to go through and we'll make sure it makes sense to as many folks as I can express those ideas to. Okay, so we have our previous item UI, and we also know let's see here. We know it has an item, an inventory item UI attached to it. And I'm just going to put transform on the end of this, just so I can like control it a little better. Better names are always better. So we have a previous item. We need to swap the two in place now. We essentially need to say the previous item is going to go to wherever the other one was, and vice versa. Jalapenos Bud, that's really, I mean, that's kind of the crux of programming for you, though. You'll find that every time you think you know as much as you can know about something, for example, I think I'm pretty freaking good at C# and Unity, and yet just a couple days ago, Morphex, one of my viewers, came along, blew my mind with some new piece of information about Unity I'd never heard of, and then proceeded to teach me how to use it. And it's the same thing with C#. You think you know C#, and then they release a new specification. They add a new language feature. Something new is always on the horizon with programming. It's a constantly evolving art, and so you find yourself needing to keep in the loop with it all the time. Otherwise, you just kind of, you fall behind, and it's difficult to catch up sometimes once you start to fall back. I used to be a big XNA programmer, and when XNA died and Unity became the new big thing, it took me a while to get reintegrated with using Unity because I was so used to how XNA did things. I got a little too squirreled away in my little corner and proceeded to need to break back out of it. So, it just happens, unfortunately. So we have our item, we have our previous item. Great, we need to swap what is in them. So we have the set function, the set inventory function. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the previous item and we're going to say this needs to go into the slot that the other object is currently attached to. Let's see here, item UI ref, item slot. This should be the way to handle this. So, okay, now we've put the other object in. We've switched the slots of the two objects. Now, we need to set our inventory and say, oops, yeah, no, item slot is, okay. Sorry, the only thing that's catching me off guard here. Oh, I have to go into the item UI dot get previous inventory slot index. There we go, that's much better. Now I set my new item to the slot contained by this item. And do I need this high? I might not. I might actually just be able to do get slot index right here. And you'll note it's throwing an error because, oh. Okay, we're most of the way. The only thing left is we have to find the other slot and switch the owners here. So I need another quick function, which is also going to fall with this warning, unfortunately. I think I'm just going to pass around the transform inside of it. In fact, that is a useless line. There we go. And since, do I want, yes, this is the way I want to do this. This is going to become public. I'm going to change its name ever so slightly. It's going to be a public get and a private set. And then this function becomes unnecessary. Except that we now have to update U in each of these places. There we go. Okay. Item UI, we put the other item in the other slot, and then we also need to change its transform parent. And then we'll be done. So we have the other object. We are going to get our current item UI. And we have the previous parent here. And we're going to say the previous item UI transform set parent to our previous parent. And just because I can, false. The world position does not stay. I think I got this. Think being the word to be used here. So that still works. Good. I actually can't tell if those traded or not. Ah, but look at that. Look at that. Oh, whoops, that's an invalid drop. Hey, it's working. Very cool. Very, very cool. I just wanted to make sure that you couldn't stack things. Stacking shit in your inventory was stupid. I wanted to make sure that you couldn't do that. Looks like that's pretty much taken care of. Ooh, also we had our set inside there. So I actually want to watch a player character as I do this. So you'll note we have his inventory here on the right hand side. So for example, if we take item 0 and drag it to item 1, it's actually making copies. Oh crap. Oh boy. Okay. I got this. I can fix this. Inventory. Of course I have to type first. Inventory. Okay, there we go. Inventory item. Previous item. We're gonna start with it being null. We're going to say the previous item is equal to the previous item UI dot item reference, and then we're going to take this. Oh. Okay, if the child is greater than 0, I swap. Okay. We'll write the code in an if-else segment, and then if we can clean it up, we'll do so. I'm really going to try not to butcher this, but I probably am anyway. The quadrs? The quaders? I don't know. I'm sorry. You'll have to fill me in on the phonetics of that. But they ask, am I scared at all of people stealing my code or ideas? No. I am fairly confident in my ability to code my own game faster than everybody else. Because it's in my head, and if someone else even tries to steal it, if they want to steal the whole game, they're going to have to steal it from me, chunk of code at a time. And I'm the one writing it. I'm always going to be ahead. I'm not too worried about it, honestly. Yeah, I might divulge some interesting ideas, but without decent execution, there's no point in anyone stealing my code. There just isn't. I'd rather be informative and show people my code than I would be kind of secretive and then not be able to stream for you guys. I don't really care about people stealing my code. No. And my ideas, everyone's had this idea before, right? I mean, I'm pretty much using 4 or 5 other games in the same genre as my inspirational set. So I'm not too terribly worried. No. Just how it is. Okay, so this is essentially what needs to happen. The item UI's previous slot needs to get nulled. And you'll note the similarity between this line and this line. I think I can do this all at once. And this is how I plan on doing it. So I have my inventory item, item ref. So that's going to start null. This will be my previous item reference. And that's going to start as null. And inside here, we're just going to say, this is equal to the previous item UI.itemRef. And then we take this and we break it out of our if statement. Note how that kind of compacts the code slightly. Not a ton, but it compacts it a little. And if we go so far as to do that and that, we can actually remove even more code. Because you'll note this is one giant get statement, pretty much. So I don't mind chunking it all together like this. Previous UI item okay, yeah. That looks good. That looks clean and kind of taken care of. I'm gonna rip out these debug lines. Also, I think I've got some more debug lines floating around, so I'm gonna try and find those and pull them out at the same time. Because I am never a fan of leaving too many debug lines floating around. It just kind of mucks up your system. Too much text flying around. And you'll notice there's a little give. We can fix that, but for now, I don't care enough to fix it. And it looks like if you look at the inventory now matches the UI side by side. So all this playing around with inventory stuff that I've done, we've now got 2 starter swords in the first 2 slots. We've got daggers in the next 2 slots. We've got the blank slot and then another dagger. And then we've got 2 more blanks followed by left hand and right hand. Great. This is beautiful. This is perfect. Just what we wanted. Is there anything else here? I think this is kind of taken care of, honestly. I mean, I can't think of anything else. Maybe an identifier for whose inventory this is would be nice. Simply because you bring up somebody's inventory, you walk away from the screen, and you come back and you're like, whose inventory is this and why is it blank? Granted, it's not too hard to turn it back off. So, and bring it back. You just click on somebody's name and it brings up their inventory. Now, I do want to add their stats here, and now we're starting to kind of crowd things off the screen. Also, you'll note we can still walk around while the inventory is up. So why don't we deal with that as well? Because it seems kind of silly to be able to walk around with your inventory open. I should at least probably turn off the part that lets me move while I'm doing this. I'm going to quickly actually go so far as to show you guys my desktop just so I can commit some code. Fixes, I mean, we'll call them features because that's really what they are, is no more item stacking. That's actually a bug fix. Let's be real. That's a fix. The feature, though, is that the player character is now updated with gear properly. It's now updated with gear properly. The word properly is unnecessary. There we go. Yeah. Doing good. Doing good. Let's think here. Okay. I've got something that's been bothering me, and I need to knock this out now while I'm still thinking about it, because otherwise I'll forget, and the moment I forget, it's gone. Right now, items can only exist in one item slot, which is good in some ways, but say I want a dagger that you can hold in your left or right hand. You can't do both. I can't hold shift and get the other one. I can't do anything to do this. So what I need to do is I need to make this a mask. So I need to write myself essentially a custom property drawer for enumeration flags. So I think, let's see here. Yeah, I think this has to go in my editor. And I'm going to call this, I don't know, my enum flag drawer. Drawer. I don't know why I'm shortening that. Jalapeno Newsbud asking, what site do I use together with Tortoise SVN? Oof, that's a good question. What am I using? I think I'm using Assembler right now. Oh, I know how to check that. I'm pretty sure I am using Assembler. They allow one private project, and so I think I'm using my single private project for this. Where is the URI? Repo browser. Yeah. Assembler. Decent features. I'm using their free stuff for now, but eventually I might need a paid system, or I might just set up my own SVN server in-house. But for now, this works. Right, I remember what I was working on. I needed the enum flag drawer, whatever. Okay, so we need a few pieces here. One is we need an enum flag attribute that is different from the system flags attribute, unfortunately. Let's put this in its own file. I hate to like separate everything into its own file, but what you gonna do? You kind of need it there. Otherwise, I don't think Unity will be too happy about it. All right. So that has that. This is not a mono behavior. This is a property attribute without this garbage. We've got our enum name, and then this requires some constructors, specifically I'm just going to leave an empty constructor and then a constructor that actually fills in the information correctly. So we've got that, and that's pretty simple and straightforward. We need the drawer, or drawer. I don't like drawer. I think of drawer like you're pulling out things in the inspector and looking through them almost. Bitbucket and SourceTree, yeah, it really depends on what their privacy policy is. So it's funny. I just said I'm not worried about people stealing my code, but I would rather not have my code out in public either. So that's kind of the balancing act that I play, is that I'd rather not have my code be completely out in the open, but I don't mind showing you guys on stream because I jump around and I do things off stream, and it makes it difficult to property. I think that's a Unity editor thing. Yeah, it is. Okay. Here's the part that's going to be interesting. Override void on GUI. There we go. Oh, cool. Thank you, Visual Studio, for filling all this in for me. Although I don't think I want the contents of that to actually be there. Oh, if I use Mercurial or Git. Okay. I'm a big fan of Mercurial. Git, I don't have a ton of experience with, but that's just because every company I've been to so far has pretty much started on SVN and then proceeded to just say to any attempts to convert over. So in most cases, I do end up sticking around on SVN for a long time. All right. Gonna shift my preview window a little bit just so I can see things a little better. Because I took a bunch of notes on how I should do this, just so I'm not like futzing with this all stream. So I need an enum flag attribute, which is what we just created. And we get the attribute like that. And enum lives within the system namespace, so we have to just tack that on. So here's our target enum. Enum has this like generic class that encapsulates all the information that actually can be inside an enum. It's bizarre, but it gets the job done. Oh, and the other thing we need to use here, the getBase property is actually a reflection thing. So system.reflection. Now, luckily this is an editor script, so I don't have to worry about... What? What do you mean it doesn't exist? I'm using... getBase property, where do you live? Not database property, getBase property. Interesting. Where the heck does that come from? Oh, also I realize I forgot something. Custom prop. We need to give it the type, otherwise it doesn't understand what this is being used for. But that's weird. I thought this was a property drawer. Okay, getBase property is no longer a thing. I thought it was. I may have taken notes on something that's out of date. Ugh. Enum flag attribute, and then yeah, getBase property. That's so bizarre. Nope. Okay, let's poke at this a little bit. This dot attribute dot is default order type ID. Without this, I'm gonna have a little trouble. Type of Is the rest of this good? Excuse me. Sorry about that. Dog starts digging in the couch, and I can't have that. Otherwise, I will have ribbons for a couch by the time he is done. So the rest of this code looks decent, or at least like it should work. So we'll see how much I can get out of this, how much mileage I can run. Because we have the property, right? We have the serialized property. And what we need to do is essentially, we need to be able to pull that out to the enum that it's attached to. Array size, color value, count, find property relative, close-ish, enum names, enum value. Okay, we're getting close to what we're hunting for here with the enum stuff. Value index, no. Names, no. Display names, no. Ugh. GetBase property. Interesting. Get reference value. Not quite. Property type. That actually might be what I'm hunting for here. Because it looks like it's trying to essentially turn it into a base enum class, which is difficult, honestly. I'm just kind of curious what's going on here, so I'm just going to toss the rest of my notes in here. And a little error checking is always good, just in case. Where's that property name going to come from? This is going to be our flag settings dot name. Specifically enum name. Okay. Oh, I see what's going on here. Here we go. So if this is null or empty, then prop name is going to be equal to the properties name, just to save us a little pain. A little error checking here to ensure that things aren't incredibly broken the whole time we're using them. Oh, and of course, I forgot to actually attach the attribute to the class. So here, the slot, nope, other way around. The item, the actual item itself, requires that its equip slot be marked as an enum flag attribute. Enum flag could not be found. Oh. I put too many scripts in here. You actually belong out here, as far as I can tell. Yes, reload it for me. Yes, do that for me. There we go. Much better. Much, much better. Cool. I don't know why I keep hitting play. I really shouldn't need to. I should be able to just click here, and you'll note that the item slot is just straight up missing, right? The place where it should be is gone, which means our code's executing correctly. We just have to dive in now and make it draw the right variables and properties correctly. So, let's see here. This should be an enum mask field instead of, right now, before it was just an enum field. And here's kind of the hard part. It wants a what? It wants a GUI. Wait, what? String label, and then it wants an enum value. And I don't know what this enum value should be. Is this the current enum value? Is this the, like, I just don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be an enum class, and some value should be in here. Probably the current value of whatever the property happens to be. So I wonder if I can just do this. Let's see here. Enum.parse type of property. And then the, oh, but it wants a string value. All right, fine. Type of property. Really? There's no, because I need it either in an integer form. Oh boy. We have the property in hand. What is going on? Is it writing things out? Okay, it says it's a serialized property, and that's pretty much all it says. Let's try a few bits and pieces inside here. Kind of poke around at the innards. Is an instantiated prefab, long value. Does it have an int value? That's what I want to know. 8. I don't know why I'm I keep hitting start. Okay. It says it has an int value of 8. That's great. Okay. So we know the int value is matching probably with the enum type, so that we're looking at what's 8. 8 is the left hand. So is an array, is expanded, long value, name, the name of the property. That'll probably be item slot, or equip slot, not what I'm actually hunting for, which is the type. Property path. Property type. Curiosity and hope kind of says that this should give me the type string. It just says enum. Let's see here. Unity get enum type. I don't know if that's the way I should be Googling this, but I'm gonna try it. Get enum type in editor or something. What I essentially want to do is I want to be able to find not just the fact that it's an enum, but the fact that it is an equip slot enum. So I need to be able to get the type out of it, which is difficult. Oh, here's somebody who might have done it a better way. Okay. Here's, let's see if this works. Somebody else seems to have done this in a cleaner, shorter way. So we've just got property.value, or int value, because we know that was correct, is going to be equal to the editor GUI, a mask field whose position, the int value, and let's make sure we get this right. Here's our label. Whoops. That's going to be our incoming label. There's the int mask, and then it just wants the displayed options, which we can actually do the property.enum names. Ta-da! That actually might be easier than all that code put together. Probably is. Let's see if it works. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Probably because this is using, okay, minus inventory item dot backpack size. The question is, do I have to add backpack size to the end of it for it to work? Probably, because it keeps bouncing back and forth. Plus inventory item dot backpack size. So the reason I keep messing with this and having to modify it before and after every step. There we go. Can I do this? I want left hand and I want right hand and not maximum. Okay, so that looks like it works. I actually am really unsure. Let's just log the int value, just to make sure I'm doing this right, because this is all over the place. Wow, the spam bots don't even try for English. They're just like, da 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 da, link. Yeah. It's getting to the point where I might actually need a bot just to handle the spammers, even though I don't have, you know, as far as I know, I don't have a huge viewer count. I mean, let's see. What do we got? Whoa. Whoa, there's a lot more of you than I expected. What is going on here, guys? Why are you so interested in making games? Oh, wait, because it's awesome. Duh. It's really awesome. Oh, there I am at 21 viewers. Holy heck. Okay, thanks, guys. Oh, God, but Crosscode and Legend of Dungeon guys are on. Oof. Rough crowd. Those guys are really good coders. Legend of Dungeon specifically has actually finished a game, as opposed to me, who's just making them. Minus 178. Okay. I mean, the flags are tossing this all over the place. So honestly, that could be a perfectly valid thing to do. Minus 178. All right. Sure, I guess. Let's try it. Let's test it out. Specifically on the fact that, let's see here. So when you drop something on an inventory slot, it shouldn't be if it's equal to, it should actually be if it contains. Let's see, item slot here is an equip slot. So I'm going to try this the C++ way first, because that's kind of the way I know how to do it. So if this and the slot type, so we're going to AND the two together, and if that is not equal to 0, then we're good. I don't see any complaints from compiler or anything else. Let's give it a swing. This might work. I'd be excited if it did, because I'd have like enum flags again, and that would be fantastic. For example, so I think I just put the fact that a dagger can be used in either hand. So, okay, daggers work in... Okay, it's complaining. Oh, I clearly broke everything. What's going on here, guys? If it's, oh, whoops, if it's not equal to 0, I'm doing a return. So if it works, I'm avoiding it. So this is actually, wait. Once again, I invert my statement because, oops. There we go. That should be much better. So now we can take away these things. We can, that, did I also make swords both-handed? No. In fact, swords are backpack type. That's probably why. Swords, you're right-handed only. So sword you can only use if you're using it in your right hand, as opposed to knives should work in either. So if we put that in our left hand, it still works. And if we put it in our right hand, it still works. Same with daggers. Something's not quite right. Let's see here, item slot. And we're also going to do a debug log on the slot type. Just to see what the heck is going on here, because this is really, really curious. It's really freaking weird. Yeah, so I click here. Let's get these daggers out. So that works just fine, right? You can see backpack is a decent slot to have. Now that I drop it on the left hand, okay, the dagger works in both hands. Why did it not? Okay, sword also works in both hands. Now that's not good. Let's double check our values here. This doesn't seem right. Oh, you know what? This is weird. So I've got it attached. I've got the flags attribute attached to it. And yet I don't actually see the fact that it's not treating it like a flag. I wonder if that's the case. So, okay, backpack should be an obvious thing, right? The value here I might have to do all these by hand. I don't like the concept of doing that, but I might have to. Oh god, let's undo that for a sec. Because I'm starting to note an issue. I'm trying to use a single variable in too many different ways. I might temporarily toss the idea of being able to use an item in your left or right hand. I might just say all weapons go in right hands and just like not mess with it any further, or at least try and come up with a smarter solution, because right now equip slot is not actually being used like a flag. I'm actually using it like an enum. And the problem is, in order to in order to equip things, I need the equip slot, and I also need like an equip use or something. Some second enum that acts like a flag while the other is actually a tie-in for what slot it should fall into in your inventory. Let's think about this for a sec. Pile my brain cells into one place for long enough to at least chunk out something more useful. Yeah, I almost think I need two enums. Part of me really wants two enums in here. One that actually has the equip slot that it falls into with the player character, and another that is just the ways in which an item can be used. So I would, for example, remove backpack from the equip slot. Oh no, I'd leave backpack in the equip slot. Okay, equip slot would stop being... Is that right? Equip slot would stop being... I want to use like the same name for two different things because I like the term equip slot. It tells you where you can put something, where you can wear something. But I need differences for where you can and where you are using it. So equipped slot versus equip singular slot. Dog is digging again. 1 second. Back to pondering. Because there's got to be a good solution for this, right? The inventory array is a fantastic solution to yesterday's problem. To the point where it works like 90% of the time. We're down to just a single remaining issue. Okay, well, no matter what we do, we have to remove this. There we go. Because all items can go, like, here are your slots. Obviously, it makes sense to have equip slot as an enumeration. That's fine. That's not the issue here. I almost need, like, another... Or, like, a... something like this, essentially, that breaks down into, this one is actually going to be flags. And what I would do here is I'd say, I'd actually turn it into flags. So I'd say right hand and then eventually I'd have other ones that are, you know, further along in the slot usability. So an inventory item does not have an equip slot, it has a slot usability. And then an inventory slot UI has two pieces of information. One, the slot to which it actually goes, and it has the slots which it can be used with. That doesn't seem right. Can I do, I have a weird idea. Really weird idea. It looks like it worked. It looks like the only complaint now is the fact that slot type is being used in some places, and usability is used in the other. Let's try something. I'm just going to keep pushing the crazy until either it works or it stops working and I run into a brick wall. So don't mind if I just kind of sit here and inanely seem to this is either going to be brilliant or incredibly stupid, and it really depends on whether this works or doesn't. If it does work, I'm going to sit here and proclaim myself a genius and that this is amazing, and if it doesn't work, well, you can kind of guess the outcome in that case, because, well, it's not going to work quite as well. I'm probably going to look like an idiot, in fact. Let's see. Let's see. So we're going to have a bunch of flags. We're going to have an attempted slot, which isn't a flag. And we're going to have a slot usability, which is going to kind of match the flag. So what's going to happen here is the equip slot is going to have to get translated either into a flag, and I and them. I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to say the item slot anded against, and here's where things are going to get weird. You're going to have to kind of bear with me here while I do insanity. Here's our slot our slot usability. And this is going to be our attempted slot flagified, for lack of better words. And then we say and it against the attempted usable slot, and if that's not 0, congratulations, this item fits this slot. Oh, the issue actually is that this needs to get converted into a slot usability. That's fine. Oh. Okay, and then item slot is a slot usability. That is also, and cannot be applied to, oh, stupid thing. Its order of operations was out of place, but that's fine. That's okay, we got this. We got this. So, our inventory slot UI is going to be able to do the following now. It can grab the item, and it says, does this item fit the following slot? And if it doesn't, we're probably in trouble. Here goes nothing. I'm just going to put some debug statements in here, just so I can watch as this potentially does or does not break. Yeah, I mean, here we go. Once more. Oh, we need to also update our items probably. Our items have probably lost their... okay. The Rusty Dagger seems to have lost its ability to have things. You are right-handed only. Okay. I mean, this... Okay, let's do one quick fix. I just realized something really stupid. I should be checking if the slot type is a backpack first. Because if it's a backpack, we don't need to do all the crazy coercion and say, well, does this fit in this slot? Don't care, right? It's just a thing. It just exists. Okay, so I hit play, cross my fingers. Okay, so these still work. That's fine. And you'll note that 7 is a reasonable number here, right? If you think of what our flags looked like, 7 is a decent number for a flag to be. Okay, so for some reason it said that didn't work. And I just realized I don't have any details inside here. So I need to fix this real quick. Because otherwise, I have no idea what I'm looking at in my debug log, and that is incredibly unhelpful. I'm already outputting the item slot, or the slot type that's coming in. You know what, I'm gonna just... We're just gonna delete these, and we're gonna handle these. So first off, because if we have to check our flag math here, it's not the end of the world, but it is something we should probably deal with. So we have the item slot, the usable slot. Hey Marco. Yeah, it has been a while indeed, but I am back at it. I have the item slot, the attempted usable slot. Oh, the attempted slot should also probably be one of the things in the list here. And I'm just going to put these in order of usage. And we'll see if this plays nicely. We'll see where the math is going wrong, because it seems close, but we need to figure out what that looks like in terms of math. So if I dump a dagger into a left-hand slot. Okay, so the attempted slot is the left hand. That comes to a usable slot of 0, which is not valid. That cannot be correct. It's 1, oh, because I'm right shifting. I should be left shifting. There's math problem number 1. All right, let's see if this works now. If it was just a math issue, I will be completely happy. Okay, the attempted slot is left hand. Yes. That is indeed where I'm trying to put things. The usable slot also comes out to left hand. Because you'll note, we got all clever on ourselves and made the left hands match using this using this setup with one influencing the other for a flag. Okay, that's fine. That's good. The item slot came out to 7. This is where the math checking comes in. What's my item slot? 7. I tried to use what essentially came down to a left hand. So let's see here. This is going to be the left hand slot, whose slot type is left hand. And then we did the AND between these two. So between 7 and whatever attempted usable slot is, which was the left hand. I really wish it wouldn't give me strings of these, actually. Let's just pump this all out in integers, just so I can see what I'm talking about. Because otherwise, when it's doing all the conversions for me, it makes it a little difficult. And Marco, no, I did not finish the last project. Unfortunately, it just became a bit much to work on my own. So I shifted gears to try something else. And here we go. This makes a lot more sense. Okay. Our attempted slot is 8. And I need to check where this stuff is coming from. But we essentially have the UI slot, who is set to 8 with its equip slot. Where we remember, equip slot is the actual number. So this should be up to 7, left hand should be 8. That's why we got left hand before. Okay, so the attempted slot, 8. It then does the flagification of that. So it takes that, it left shifts our 1 8 times, and turns it into a slot usability flag, which should come out to the 256 that we saw. Good. And then it says, I have an item slot. How can this be 7? That can't be 7. That can't be correct. Slot usability should either be one or the other. I have a feeling this flag drawer is doing me some bad news here. Let's actually stop doing that, at least for now. See if that helps. Because it definitely broke something when we attempted to handle the enum flag in a different place. Okay. Take a glance at our weapons once again. Dagger says everything. I'm just going to quickly reset. Well, I'm just going to set it back to everything for now. And you are right hand only. That should be correct. Because it's the item slot that's off. This, which is attached to the actual item itself. That's what's causing us the issue. 7 is not going to be in the 256 flag. It just isn't how it works out. Okay. Item slot comes down to -1. Am I not doing this correct? Am I not left? Should I be right shifting and not left shifting? It's been so long since I've done bit flags that I kind of have to wrap my head around some of it and how it gets done. Yeah, that would be a right shift, wouldn't it? Oh, it would be. Because left shift... Oh, man. It's been so long. Would it be a right shift? This is going to start driving me crazy. I just like need a calculator. Part of me just wants a calculator. Let's left shift it 3 times. I'm just gonna like abuse my own code for a sec. Write myself a couple simple math examples because it's been a while. Okay, example 1 is 8, example 2 is 0. Example 1 is using the left shifting. So left shifting is correct. How did I get -1 out of the item slot though? That's the part that gets me. Is the item slot should be what is Unity doing? That's I guess that's my big question here. How is it interpreting these flags? Whoops. So when I select, for example, this starter dagger, or actually let's start with the right hand sword, and I say nothing, okay, it sets it to 0. That makes sense. If I come through here and now say right hand, it sets it to 2, which is incorrect. Oh, it's setting it to the second name. It doesn't actually care about the integers in the response or the actual values of the enum itself, does it? It could not give a shit about those, could it? And that's why this works for Unity, but not for me. Ouch. So I'm starting to recognize the issue here. And it becomes a question of how I get this to match and then unmatch. I essentially have to do a bunch of left and then right shifting again, because what it's doing is it's got the label and it's got all the enumeration names, but it doesn't actually have the enumeration itself. And that's where our issue is starting to cause us trouble. If I knew the type of the enumeration, that'd be great. I'd be done. Like, this would be a simple thing. Unity get enum type on GUI, or I'll just use property. Changing the list to an array, so examples works. Enums of it as a drop-down, like I'm hunting for, and maybe one of you will actually know the answer to this instead of me. But essentially, enum get type property. I want to get the enum type of a property. That's essentially what I want to do. A property field, that might, okay, is that the way to do this? Property field. I've never actually seen one of these, so I'll try it, because why not? Include children, no. Okay, so it's just position and property. This feels like a trap. Yeah, that can't be right. The mask field has been the closest I've been able to get so far. I wonder if I could make this a template. And then do an enum.parse. So I'd say the actual int value, I'd have to do two conversions here. One would be the conversion into the mask field, and the other would be the conversion back out. So for example, we would, God, I wish there were a simpler way to handle this, because this seems incredibly stupid that I can't use this in the editor and have it floating about inside here. Because I know what it wants to do, and I understand what it wants to do and why. But getting it to serve my purpose is a little more difficult. Oh, God. There's just so much to this. Like, it's funny, for such a simple task, this is actually causing me a lot of trouble. Especially since this is something that you'd think Unity would have great controls with. And yet, we're so close yet so far. So, Olsen Henriks, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get an enumeration flag from Unity to their editor and back again, using the flags so that I can mask it, essentially. And the problem is that if I don't control this properly, what I end up with is something completely stupid. I end up with this like completely wrong number. So remember how it told me 7, right? And you kind of wonder, where is 7 coming from? If we look at the items here, let's see here. Actually, I have to look at the code again, see what it actually is generating and why. An open generic type. Yeah, okay, sorry, I'll delete that. There we go. No more complaints? No more complaints. Good. Okay, so a sword should only be able to go into somebody's right hand. Seems clear and simple enough. So, if I take this sword and I proceed to try and dump it in the right hand, it doesn't work for the following reason. The item slot number that is assigned to this is not based on the actual flag value, but instead it's actually based on the string value. So note how it goes 0, 1, 2. That's it. That's all that lives inside of this value. That's all Unity cares about. And I have to find a way to convert it from 2, which is a string value, into the actual enumeration value. And I have to base it off the right enum. Otherwise, it's just going to be garbage the whole time. So that's why I was thinking, what if I did this as a templated class? And I did the template the following way. So we have the editor value, which is going to come down to the property.int, whoop. Really? Come on, guys. Dot int value. There we go. And we have to unflag it, essentially. Seems like the dumbest thing in the world, but I think that's how we have to handle this. So we have to switch it out to an editor value of some kind. And then our value that we get out, we have to re-flag it. So we have to right shift it and then left shift it. It seems stupid, but this might be the way to go. Oh, I have an open generic type because I'm not actually using this flag. Okay, so a sword goes in the right hand. So it says its value is now 4. That is still incorrect. Oh, and once again, it's because it's based on the string. It's not even based on the value in any way, shape, or form. Right, this is why I wanted this to be a template, so that I could do the following. I could say property.get, I think it's get values? Get end, get enumerator, no, okay. We're going to take an int, and we're going to push it into our enumeration. That's kind of the easy thing to do here. Cannot implicitly convert, sorry, there we go. Cannot implicitly convert int to t. That really depends on what t is, but okay. Where t, let's see here. I think we can say where t is a type, just so we don't, yeah. This. I actually think that might go first. I've never actually, I don't use where too often. Where t is an enum, and it's also a property drawer. Let's see. Oh, this does not go there. That goes there. Where t is system.enum. Constraint cannot be special. Okay, where t is an int. Int is not a valid. Wow. Okay. C#, you have one incredibly unhelpful system here. Let's try real quick to just, where is it? Our property drawer lives on the item itself? No, it should live, yeah, the item itself. Okay. Well, we're close, guys. We gotta keep poking at this, but we're getting there. We're just making progress, eensy little steps at a time. So the problem is that the editor keeps wanting to set the value one way, and we want to set the value the other way. We want to be able to use the editor to quickly and easily click on all the things that we want on, and the things that we want off, and not really care about everything else. But it doesn't want to set the values to the actual enumeration values. It wants to set it to its own predefined gobbledygook that's based on the enumeration names of the actual string that we're handing it. Let's see here. Is there a better way to do this? Like, we've got our mask. Yeah, all of these ask for the displayed options, which is essentially the integer that it wants to pull from, and that doesn't necessarily match what I want it to be. Because it just indexes things in order, and that's bullshit. Let's see here. At bare minimum, right hand should come out to be a certain value. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to specialize this. And if I need another one, I'll figure it out. This is going to be our slot usability. Flag. Yeah, I'm just going to take out flag because slot usability we just happen to know. And I'm going to have to do some name changes on things, and I do not care, because honestly, I'm done with fighting with this. Making general solutions is great, but sometimes when it's time constraint or when you just really need to get through something, you just have to make a specific solution, and if you come up to need a second case of something similar, then you do multiple things at the same time. But otherwise, I don't care. I don't. So, let us... dump that there. No, we're going to dump that there. Don't care about that anymore. The other thing that I want to do here is I need to actually make sure this exists and is a real thing. Yes, that's nice. Go away. There we go. Oh. Hello. Enum name. Can I get an enum from the name? Can I really enum.getName? I might have completely missed a way through this that I left myself a note for and then proceeded to completely ignore. I clearly thought of this last night. I just forgot that that was what I was doing. I just forgot. Oh boy, sometimes I can be such a blockhead. All right, step one. We have an enumeration type. We know that this is our enum type for the following reason. What we can do is we can say, here's our target enum, and we're going to go into our property, which has the enum name. Let's see here. I need to somehow get access to this attribute. That's the one piece of information here that is really going to make or break this. I need access to this attribute. So I need to do this and call it slot use ability. That's what I need to do. Okay, so the property, the serialized property is coming through. And that is not what this, yes, it is. It's a property attribute. Get property. How do I get access to that is my big question here. From a property drawer, from one of these things, I need a way to get access to it. I'm looking at their details, trying to see if there's an easy way to do this. They say, oh, for ingredients, you can have an ingredient drawer. Great, don't care. I want to see how you do the conversion, how you get the information out of the object. But this is, okay, I know I have an object. I should be able to grab the attribute from the object. So for example, okay, here's a range attribute that has a min and a max. Great. Range attribute, attribute as range attribute. Where's this attribute coming from? That's the, okay, is that just a base? Yeah, it is. Okay. We have solved the problem, guys. Oops. because we have the enum name. So we are going to say that we can get names. That's easy. Get the underlying type and get the values. The values are the ones that we really, really freaking care about. Okay. I'm so happy I have this now. So I just need to enum.get, let's see, get underlying type, and I pass it a type. No, I want, is it parse, really? I mean, the other way to do this, oh, wait, no, I'm dumb. Why am I using strings? Strings are terrible. And also, that should not be allowed. I can't pass in a type? Really? Oh. That's why. I can pass in a type. And not types. Type. Singular. And you, type of this. We just made life a lot easier. This is awesome. Enum type. Equals enum dot get underlying type from the enum type. Format? No. Get name, where you have a type and a value. That's close. Get names, get values. Like, I'm on the cusp of having all the bits and pieces I need. I do have the type. I guess I could just do that. I don't care about this. I just care, whoop, I do care, haha, about having this enum type. But what I don't care about is actually getting the specific enum. So here's what we're going to do. Enum get names for the enum type. We're going to pass in the int value, and that's that might work well enough. We just need to make sure that we're doing the conversion in and out of our type well enough. So for example, it's going to pass back an integer, and we need to convert that integer using the various strings into the flag base. And then we'll be done. We will be done with this forever. Yeah, Boken, I say we. I don't know. It's like the royal we. I say we, you know, we will do this. I know, you guys don't, you may not always feel like you've helped, but it also is nice to have the soundboard, and every once in a while, chat throws things at me that not only blows my mind, but or it'll help me just fix the problem. They've seen typos that I've missed. Chat has helped me with just banging my head against a brick wall until I realize what I'm doing wrong. So even though in this specific situation it may not feel like you've helped a ton, I always feel like chat is a helpful thing for me. If only because I'm still sitting here programming when I may have gotten up and walked away a long time ago, had I been doing anything else. You know, had I been doing this on my own, it may be a lot less likely that I'd still be sitting here at this computer doing this. So I have the type, I have this, I have my int value, which is going to, this is going to need to be the flag. So this needs to turn into my editor value. And the editor value needs to make its way in. Now, in order to convert from property to editor, enum.get, let's see here. I need to essentially convert from the integer value, which is going to be the flag, and I need to convert that down to match the strings. That's the difficult part. Hey, you know, Boken, it makes sense for me. Bonkin? Is that right? Is that better? I don't know. I'm trying not to butcher names, but I'm bad at it. I don't know. It's helpful to have chat here. It's helpful to have the stream and to help have folks even lending a hand quietly. All 20-ish something of you who are here. I know it's probably dropped since I've started poking at this problem because it's not a terribly visual thing, but this is a tool that I need working. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to work on this game at a decent rate. Okay. Integer to flag to name, essentially. So how do I do that? Because these values are going to be way too big, right? We need to is that going to work? Not left shift, right shift. No, that won't work. I don't think that'll work. Oh, okay, cool. Nice to know I got it eventually. I get there eventually. That's kind of, I'd call that a catchphrase, but that might be a little bad for certain situations. Saying, yeah, I get there eventually. Girlfriend might not be too happy with that catchphrase. Okay, one thing at a time. I'm going to look at the editor value as it pops up in the editor. So if I say nothing, okay, it gets set to 0, and I say right hand, and it comes up as 2. I'm guessing because it goes 0, 1, 2. So I have to essentially relate these two to each other. 0, 1, 2. Actually, that might not be too bad. 0, 1, 2. I wonder if I say get values and I put all the values together, I might be able to build it that way. So what we do is we say this A should not start out like this. I don't know what this, this should be equip slot.max, and this should be the int form of it. And we're going to say for each bit, there might be a better way to do this. enum.get values. It's actually ints, I suppose. Is this gonna work? Yeah, okay. It seems a little bizarre, but I don't know why I hit start. Let's clear this for a sec. Okay, so it simply proceeds to type out 0, 256, and 512. Okay, so what it essentially is coming up with is for each index, it's coming up with values that match. So what I then have to do is take those values that this is a little complex for me even, but I think I understand what I need to do. The only question here I thought I changed it. Is it still... Okay, it's still typing out 0 a whole bunch. If I select left hand and right hand... Oh, but it's not... And then everything is -1. So it is using a very literal int, or a very literal flag stream here. We're so close. I feel like I need to get my brain over this last hurdle, and this will be cleared and done and dealt with. Editor value for each I in the value array. If the enum value is contained within the current property, so I'll just do if this is 0, continue. So if the enum is within the current, int value, then we say the editor value can I just get to things? How do I get to things in the value array? I actually just don't. Okay. I'm going to for loop this. Because it'll make a little more sense to me when this is all said and done. So if the value array index is contained within, then we take the editor value and we add in 1 left shifted and index number of times. Cannot apply indexing to an expression of system.array. Can I say .get value or get something? Get value at this index. And then we're just going to convert it out to an int because we're pretty certain that array parts are part of the int. Okay, so this will give us our in. We then need to convert it back out. Editor value is going to be equal to this. And what we need to do is convert it back now. So we need to say, for each value that is in the editor array, we need to push the value back into the property. And if this makes very little sense to you, don't worry, it makes very little sense to me. I'm just writing the code. I am just the fingers that are attached to the brain. All right. Say if let's see here. If that is contained within there, then property. Okay, first off, we need to zero this. Property dot int value 0, and then we say property dot int value gets ORed with the value array get value at the index. Whew. Oh god, I think I've done it. That or my computer's about to eat it. If the stream stops, you can kind of guess which one I just accomplished. Okay. Where'd Unity go? Unity, come here. This is about to be real interesting. Okay. Nothing. Should print out zeros. Do I not have any debug log lines in here? I don't. Okay. Okay. Okay, editor value and property value both match 0. We're good. I hit left hand. The editor value becomes 1, and the property value becomes 256. That looks correct. If we double check this against our inventory item, 1 left shifted 8 times is 256. Alright, I'm going to set it back to none. Sets this back to none. I set right. Our editor value becomes 2. Our property value becomes 512. Great. Here's the part where the brain might break. Or the computer might break. We're not sure. We'll see which one hits first. If I turn both on, the editor value becomes -1, and the property value becomes 768, which, if I'm correct, 512 plus, whoops, 512 and 256 is 768. Yes, this is exactly what we want. Whew. We got it, guys. I think we got it. Let's turn off the debug lines, because that's going to drive me nuts. And now that the debug lines are off, I'm going to clear this out. We'll check our inventory setting, and if this all works, we're good. Alright. I hit play. Oh, whoops. One sec. We got to set our items correctly. The dagger, let's see. I'm going to set it back to everything, just to make sure the values work out right. And the wood sword, remember, is right-handed only. Dagger everything, sword right hand only. Okay, so I'm going to remove the daggers from there. We dump them in the backpack, that's fine. I can put one in the left hand. There we go. You see the item slot matches, the usable slot is within it, and the attempted slot's there. I should be able to put the dagger in both hands just fine, which I am. I should not be able to put the sword in the left hand. If I can put it in the right. Oh, guys, we got it. It works. It works. Cool. And this is extensible. That's the most, like, that's the part that I cannot emphasize enough, is that this whole system is extensible. So when I add more items, I don't have to go through and do it by hand. It just kind of magically happens. I'm just going to try something too. So I'm going to swap out, and I'm going to put the swords at the top, and we'll put the daggers at the bottom, and then I close it, and then I open it, and oh, look, his inventory still matches. Ha! Knocking out bugs, adding features, all kinds of good stuff happening today. Whiteland, you just missed a bit of enumeration flag shenanigans that I do not wish to replicate anytime soon. That was just such a clusterfluff that I don't even want to go there. Feature in a mask's work, and I'm gonna add a mwahahaha there for good measure, because holy shit. Okay, yeah, no, I can't do that. It's worth a shot. Whew. Taken care of. Well taken care of on our part. Alright. Guys, if you have any questions, if you want to know exactly what's going on, yeah, Bunkin, I'm trying to not cuss. Try to keep it family friendly when I can. And I heard at TwitchCon, people were talking about using fluff instead of various other words. So I figured I'd give it a shot. So far, it seems to work. Yeah, alright, what else? What else? What else? What else? Do we have anything else? I'm kind of looking at my bug list, which we've kind of knocked out. I do know there's one bug still in the system. Something that is quietly still going to plague us is the fact that you can switch out an item with any other item, and it doesn't check the incoming item's abilities to actually maintain that slot. So remember how swords are a right hand only item. So if I try and put it in the left hand, it just keeps snapping back to the right hand, which is fine. But then we can cheat. We can say, well, a dagger fits in your left hand. Oh, or really? Okay, never mind. That bug isn't there. I'm losing my mind. I am going crazy. It's okay, guys. No, this works. This is great. I'm elated. I need to turn off these debug lines before I need to turn off the debug lines that are left before I do anything else to... I just realized I think I submitted with the debug lines in there. Yeah, I did. You can literally look through any of my SVN logs that I've contributed to. If you see the word herp or derp, that tends to mean I've done something stupid that I can't believe I did, but I did it anyway. And that whatever has gone on, it just was a stupid thing that needed to be fixed. That happens a lot in a lot of my SVN logs. We're getting there. We're actually pretty much ready for combat at this point. Short of adding armor to the system, which is little more than a mostly data entry kind of thing, I think we've got that all taken care of. I'm trying to think of what else. If you guys have any questions, feel free, toss them my way. I am happy to field whatever I can while I kind of poke at the system and see if I can't break it. But at this point, it seems pretty solid. Like, we're able to do a lot of really neat stuff just in inventory. Granted, we can't see the stats changing, nor can we see the little tooltips that we want eventually to show, but we'll get there, one thing at a time. I have been here for a little over 2 hours. I do have other things I need to take care of, so unfortunately I will have to leave you guys shortly. But thank you for joining me. For those of you who have not seen this stream and are catching me for the first time, there's a follow button that I encourage you to hit. My schedule tends to be Tuesday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am online. Monday and Saturday and Sunday, I kind of just stream when I can. I'm trying to come up with a more regular schedule for my weekends, but it's a little difficult, mostly because just things are constantly coming up. Working in a startup tends to mean that sometimes you have to put a couple extra hours in, unfortunately, or it just means that, like, this weekend I've been getting bombarded by resumes constantly. We opened up a couple positions at the company, and everything in the jobs email folder gets forwarded to myself, along with a number of other people. So my emails have just been streaming in, and I can't help but look at them. Or I just, like, want to play a lot of Rocket League one weekend, and I don't know. We'll see. I'll try and come up with something a little more regular. I'm a Rocket League addict right now, though, so we'll see how well that works. But yeah, thanks guys for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a little bit of frustrating, frantic code writing, but in the end, it turned out to be fairly simple. I mean, look at what this breaks down to. This is nice. The fits slot is a nice little function. The flag attribute is literally like 5 lines long. Our enum drawer is about 20, but that's not bad. Like, considering the work that's getting done in that system, that's not bad at all. Like, yeah, we do a little bit of crazy type coercion, but I've had worse. I've had a lot worse. So yeah, thanks again, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you next stream. If you can't catch the streams live, I would say that if you want to follow the YouTube channel linked directly below, you'll see all of the streams as I put them online. Right after I close this one off, I'm going to upload yesterday's 3 hours and today's 2. It looks like it's going to come out to about 2.5 hours almost. So we'll take care of that, and then you guys can watch them at your leisure. Thanks again, guys. Have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.